Reflect on your cleanup routines and expectations. Make sure that you are calm and assertive during your cleanup directions, but also while the students are cleaning up. Make sure that you're giving directions that signal things need to happen now. If you say something like, get you a spot where you can stop with your painting, and then when you're ready, move it to the drying rack, do a good job of washing your paintbrushes, and then begin to line up. First of all, that's a lot for students to remember, and it's not clear at all on how much time they have to complete that task. Don't assume that students understand what your directions are. Make sure that you have routines that run the same each time. Make sure that you quickly review things or do a demo about what's expected with the cleanup at the beginning of class, so that when you refer to it at the end of class, students know exactly what to do. In my class, when I'm giving the cleanup directions, I blink the lights and I turn the lights off. At the end of my cleanup directions, I explain that I'm going to turn the lights back on, and when I do, that's the signal for everyone to begin cleaning up. I highly recommend having a visual timer in your art room so students know how much time they have for art making and when the cleanup will begin. This helps a lot with having students understand when they'll be asked to stop. Now, when I'm referring to this with my younger students, I might ring the bell and say hands up and eyes up. I noticed that the timer looks like a Pokeball. That means half of art is over. Make sure that you are finishing up with your pencil drawings and you are getting to the outlining steps so that we can have that finished by the time that the timer beeps. I might also say something again to younger students. I'm noticing that the timer is getting very small, like a piece of cheese. That means in just a few minutes, we're going to have to stop and put our paintings on the drying rack. With older students, I would refer to, I noticed that we have 15 minutes left. Just a reminder that you need to be finishing things up. We have 5 minutes left. And I make those things very calmly, setting goals for students on what step maybe they should be on. I don't allow the students to shout out updates about the timer. There are kids that just love doing this. And what will happen is they'll start shouting, there's 12 minutes left, there's 6 minutes left. And oftentimes, some of them read the timer wrong. So they're literally just, fake news, misinformation is being shared. The way that they are sharing it is kind of stressing other people out. So I have only me as the person that gives updates about the timer so that I'm sure I am giving the correct information and I'm presenting it in a calm way and enabling students to set goals for themselves with the time that we do have left. Clear and consistent routines are going to help a lot of your students with cleaning up. So what I do each and every time is I blink the lights. Macaroni and cheese. Everybody freeze. We are not walking. We are not talking. In a minute, but not yet. I want you to take your painting and move it to the drying rack. Then collect all of the paintbrushes and put them in sink number 2 in our paintbrush hot tub. When those 2 things are done, you may begin washing your hands and wiping off tables. Please wait for the signal. Wait for it. Wait for it. Please begin cleaning up. So far, we've gone over some very general things about cleanup. Now we're going to get into some more specifics, so stick with us. One thing that you can do is sympathize with students and shift the blame. So I would love to let you guys stay and have you finish your paintings. You're being so focused and these paintings are looking so wonderful. But I know your teacher needs to start her math lesson, and you know what's going to happen? The 4th graders are going to be lined up waiting to come in the art room. So we do have to stop. You can acknowledge then how they are feeling. And that makes students feel seen and valued, that it's frustrating that we can't have more art time, but we have to do what we have to do. Cleanup is not just a rule then that you're enforcing, but it's something that's necessary so that you are ready for the classroom teacher and you are ready for the next class to enjoy their art time. Respecting the other class and also respecting the teacher's time is creating that kind of culture where people care about other people in your room. It's very important to me that my class is lined up and quiet and ready on time. What I've found over time is that helps the classroom teachers to respect me and my art time and make sure that they're picking up their classes on time. When you have kids all around and some people are still working and some people are cleaning up and the class isn't calmed down and ready and the teacher just kind of has to stand there and wait at the door, or even worse, jump in and kind of help you to finish up the art class, it makes the teacher not really want to be there on time. They may, stop and kind of linger and chat with somebody at the copy machine because they know if they get to the art room, even if they get there right on time, you're not going to be ready. So I make a really big deal with students about how we must be ready to respect the next class, to respect the teacher who's coming to pick them up, that's going to be ready to go. How they are lined up and quiet really does set the tone for the rest of the day. And I share that with students. If the teacher has to help me to clean up and, we're both yelling at students, that's going to put the teacher in a really grumpy mood going back to the classroom. If the line is quiet and ready and that class has earned the golden paintbrush, that really makes the teacher very proud of the class and it makes a smoother transition into the rest of the day. One thing that will help with the transition of getting students to stop working and start cleaning is if you are really clear about the day's goal. At the beginning in your lesson, you may share, today we're going to be painting the ground and the sky. We're going to be adding in the clouds. We are not going to finish this painting today. When it's time to clean up, only the ground and the sky are going to be done. We're not going to do the details. That's going to happen on day 2. So when the timer goes off, are we going to be done? No. Are we going to cry? No. We know that we're coming back next week and we're going to get to finish our paintings. That's what you need to share with your students. You need to remind them, maybe like halfway through when you're saying, there's 15 minutes left. Again, reiterating, our goal today is not to finish the painting. We are not even getting out the detail paintbrushes. So that's not happening today. Remember, this is going to be a 2 or 3 day painting and we're only on day 1. I want you to take your time. I want you working like a turtle and then doing careful work. And when you hear that timer, I'm going to need you to stop. That really helps students. Remind them also, when you start the cleanup directions, I know that we're not finished. This was what our plan was. We finished our ground and sky, or we got very close to doing that. Next time, we're going to pick up where we left off. If you still need to add the clouds next time, that is okay. But right now, we are stopping and starting to clean up. Another thing that I like to do is at the end of each quarter, I do a ketchup and a pickle day. This gives students the opportunity to finish things they didn't have time to finish. So they understand we're not going to work really fast, during the cleanup and try to get something finished. There's a day that's set aside for finishing things up where the materials will be available and you can finish things if needed. On that day, if they're a pickle, then they get to pick and choose what they want to do. So that's also an incentive for them to use their time appropriately when they are in class so that they are finishing assignments. I have more information about Ketchup and Pickle Day in another video. So let's say you've got all your routines, you're doing things consistently, you're doing everything you can to set your students up for this transition to cleanup success. And you still have a student or a few students that resist cleaning up when asked to do so. Here's what you do next. You want to give just a general reminder to the group, something very gentle like everyone's hands should be helping to clean up. Give, 30 seconds. See if those students begin to comply. If students are not helping to clean up, that's when you directly want to say their name and ask that they clean up. Depending upon your relationship with the student, you might also be able to inject some humor into the situation, or just kind of being very blunt and saying, What is the rest of the class going to do when they realize that you are not helping us to clean up? Or you can say something like, oh, I didn't know you were the queen of the classroom. It's so nice that all the other students are your butlers and maids, and the other kids are going to be like, what? And then they're going to remember they're part of a community. They're part of a group that everybody needs to help. But again, be sensitive to your relationship with that student. If you joke about things with them normally, or if that would be something that would kind of trigger and set them off, then that's not appropriate. When I'm getting to the second direct reminder, again, I'm using their name. They know I'm talking to them. At this point, I've probably moved closer to them, and they are ignoring my directions. This is when I document this. I have a little folder where I keep my seating charts, and I have a behavior chart where I just write down when this type of thing happens. I also write this down on our art support report. Now, what that is, and I've got more information about this in other videos, but it's part of my behavior management plan. It's my communication to the classroom teacher. Not at all that I'm asking the classroom teacher to do anything, but I'm letting them know that this behavior happened and then what my response was. Because on 2 reminders, I'm really just documenting that, and I am trying to work with that student to come up with a solution to fix this problem. When I get to the 3rd reminder about cleaning up, that is when I would not only note it on that art support report and share that with the classroom teacher, because many of them will really help you to encourage the students the following week and kind of give them some things to build them up and some reminders about how they need to listen and be ready. But on that 3rd reminder, that's when I also contact home. Not that ignoring the cleanup directions is like the biggest, most terrible, awful problem that could happen, but you really want to stop when these things happen. Because if you were letting students get away with this, and at first it's just 1 or 2 students, you're going to start to have, a whole table ignores your directions. And then the next week, it's 2 tables that are ignoring your directions. It needs to be really clear to students that there are going to be consequences for not stopping and helping with the cleanup, that it really is not an option to do that. It's very important that you're teaching your students accountability and punctuality. One way that I reinforce this with my students is my happy and sad board. This is another part of my behavior management plan. It just helps students to reflect on whether we're doing positive things or negative things throughout the class. And we use this especially during cleanup. At the end of our cleanup, we have a reflection. So I go back up to where we record the points and I say, just very quickly, how do you think we did with the cleanup today? Thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down? So if you're noticing several people didn't stop on time, this is when you could have your thumb, kind of like, I'm kind of like this today because there were several people that did not begin cleaning up when we asked them to. So that's something we need to work on for next week. And then, the class could get a frown. I would only do that if it's several students, but it's a way to say that you noticed that and note to yourself that you want to talk about that again next week, because it's really difficult when things happen during cleanup to deal with it during that art class. You've got a lot of things to put back. You've got to get that class lined up and out. You might have another class walking right in the door. So I like to note in my plan book to talk about it with the class for the next week. So when they come in the next week, maybe while I'm setting that visual timer, I might say, I wrote a note to myself that last week we had some trouble with cleaning up. So normally I put 5 minutes on the timer to clean up. Today, I'm going to put 8 minutes on the timer. And I want us to be done cleaning up and back into our seats in 5 minutes so that we have 3 extra minutes that we can do a brain break to celebrate that we rocked the cleanup and worked together to get that done. So that's a strategy that you can try. Having the class stop a little bit early the next week till they get that routine right of stopping and having everyone help to clean up. Now, when it's just one person, you could individually talk to that person once the students start working and tell them, last week there was a problem where when I asked you to clean up, you didn't do that when I asked you to. Now, I'm sure that you were feeling really rushed and stressed, and I don't want that to happen to you today. Today, you're going to stop a few minutes early so that you can practice when you hear that beep, cleaning up and getting everything done and helping the other students. So you're going to start cleaning up a little bit early. And then when you finish your cleanup, let me know and I'm going to give you a special job. So that's reinforcing a positive relationship with that student and getting them on board to doing the routines that are expected, and then give them a little reward to help the class with that cleanup process. So when I have a student, let's say sitting at the red table that's refusing to clean up, I'm giving them a direct reminder that they need to help us and clean up. I'm going to come back to them in just a minute and give a second reminder. But in the meantime, I'm going to be using reinforcing positive language with the rest of the class to reinforce the behaviors that I do want to see. And what I like to do, and this comes from Responsive Classroom, is say things like, I notice, I see, I'm so proud of, but I'm not saying specific student names. I know many of us, we're trained and grew up and see teachers that will say, oh, I love how Susie is sitting, or Michael is doing such a great job at this. But when we're saying Michael's doing such a great job at this, Sadie might also be doing a good job, and she's thinking, well, I was doing that too, and you didn't say my name. And then that student is less likely to want to help next time. So you're going to say things to the general group. I notice that people are really taking time to rinse out those paintbrushes. I see people walking to put the scissors back in their pockets. I'm so proud that some people are thinking about what's coming next and they're already beginning to wipe off the tables. So that helps the people that are helping to really feel seen, and it gives a clue to other people that you didn't really mention that weren't doing those things, the things that they should be doing. Now, it's not my jam, but some people do stickers or little prizes for the students. It's not something that I personally like to manage every single week or want to pay for. I've got some videos about things that work really well for me with behavior management, and also because I've been teaching for 23 years, things that I've tried that don't work so well. So those are other videos you can check out if you haven't watched them yet. One thing that I do in my classroom is mystery artist, but I do this once a quarter, but it's a great strategy. So on my day when we have Ketchup and Pickle Day, so that's a day when people are like finishing things up, other students are having free time, there's a lot going on, okay? There's a lot of messes on that day. And who would want to clean up on a day that is so fun? Nobody. So to incentivize students to stop and really get things clean for me on those Ketchup and Pickle days, because I mentioned the students are catching up and they're picking what they want to do, but I am doing report cards, okay? I am getting stuff done during my planning time that's not, prepping for those lessons for that week, but I'm getting things ready for the next quarter. So I really need things to be clean at that time, and I do mystery cleaners. So what I'll do, and it's just on that Ketchup and Pickle Day, is I will say, at the end of class, when we clean up, I'm going to find 6 things in the room that are in the wrong spot. It might be a paintbrush that somebody's left behind, it might be a piece of trash, it could be a chair that we need to push in, but I'm going to write down 6 things that are in the wrong spot that need to be put back, and I'm going to watch and see who takes that thing and puts it away. I'm going to write their name down, and 6 people, when we line up, are going to be asked to get out of line and choose a prize. And it's all about luck. You need to make sure your students, if you do this, don't get super emotional about it. It's not about you picking the best cleaner. That would be a really hard thing to do. So it's just about luck. But the more things they clean up, the better chance they have of being lucky. If they clean up 20 things, one of those things might be on your list, okay? If they only clean up one thing, chances are they're not going to be getting a prize that day. And that, like I said, this is not something I maintain week after week, but it's something that you might want to try in your art room from time to time or on those super messy days. That's it. Those are the 8 tips I have for you on how to deal with students that refuse to clean up in the art room. Be sure that you reach out with questions so that I can make content that is helpful for you. I hope that you'll watch these cleanup videos next.